Okay, welcome to math. This is Mr. Gable, and the things you'll need today are the usuals. You'll need your iPad, a pencil, and your math notebook. All right, so our topic for today, your title, is Solving Inequalities Using Multiplication or Division. And today you will work to have a better understanding of how to solve inequalities using multiplication or division. So make sure that this title is added into your notebook along with in your table of contents in your math notebook. All right, so again, here's just a review. Inequalities, what they are. You can pause the video and read that. We've looked at that on the other days. All right, so explain to a partner how to solve the following inequalities. So this is a review from yesterday, and really what I want you to do is I want you to take just a second or two in your notebook, write a couple sentences, maybe 3 or 4, how to do these. Pause the video, and I'll see you in a second. All right, so thanks for doing that writing. Here's what I would encourage you to think, because this is what you already know. You already know how to solve equations. Now, when you're doing inequalities, really just think this way and then solve them the exact same way. So now you're thinking equation, and so instead of getting tripped up possibly by the inequality symbols, you're solving an equation. So here you would subtract 7 from each side. So x then would be less than or equal to negative 11. Okay, and again over here you're thinking along the lines of that equation, but then you are using this here and you're adding 6 to each side, so x is greater than 14. All right, so that's just a way to think about those, and that's kind of how I would explain that, especially if I knew my person that I was explaining to it already understood how to solve equations like you do. So take a couple seconds and let's just do the evens, 2, 4, and 6 here, and go ahead and put that less than or greater than symbol there. Pause the video and I'll see you in a second. Okay, so 2 is greater than negative 2, and negative 13 is less than negative 11. And I feel that that one's a little tricky just because we know that 13 is greater than 11, but in the negatives, it's the exact opposite. So, all right. And then negative 8 is less than 8. Okay. All right. So, are the solutions the same to the following equations? In other words, will a number be the same? So what we want to do with these is we really just want to take a value and substitute in for x. So I chose 5. And are the solutions to the following inequalities the same? So if I put in 5, I'm left with 10 is less than negative 12, which that is false. And then negative 10 is less than 12. This one's true, but it's asking, are the solutions to the following inequalities the same? And what they're really trying to get at here is, how does that negative number, how does that play into effect here? Because it has a greater effect that we'll look at in a second. So use the table to solve the inequalities. I'm going to show you a couple of these because I want to refresh you on these. So let's take a look at number 1 together, and number 1 is going to look like this. So here's our original problem. Remember, I want you to think the same as just an equation, but then keep that inequality sign. So here we're going to divide both sides by negative 2. Okay, so we're dividing both sides by negative 2. Now, when you're dividing by a negative or multiplying by a negative, you've really got to be careful because the signage of the inequality is going to flip. In other words, it's going to be the opposite. So right now we would read this as greater than, but then when we divide both sides by negative 2, we're left with x and negative 2 on this side, and now we've got to turn that inequality sign around. So now it says that x is less than negative 2. Okay, and then here is the same thing for this one here. So x divided by negative 3, or x negative 3/3, is less than 21. All right, so we're going to multiply, and this is the other thing that I want to show you. This is division. Remember that divisional structure of a fraction, and we're going to multiply both sides by negative 3. And in doing so, we're going to get x is equal to, or in this case, x is equal to negative 63, but equal to is the wrong thing. X is greater than negative 63. And if you notice, here we're less than, and here we're now greater than. So if you're dividing or multiplying by a negative number, you need to change the direction of the inequality. And that's also true if you have equal to. If you have equal to, you keep the equal to, but you just flip it from less than to greater than, or greater than to less than. All right, so now it's your turn. I want you to, we did 1 and 5, so I want you to do 2, 4, and 6 on your own. Be real careful, because if you're multiplying or dividing by a negative, you've got to flip that sign around. All right, so pause the video and do that work. Okay, so if you look here, we had less than, and we had to divide both sides by -4, and in doing so we got x is greater than 2, and here we multiply or divided both sides by -3, and in doing so we got x is less than or equal to, where we started off with greater than, less than or equal to -6, and then here we have negative x over, or 5 over negative, I can't say it, x over -5 is greater than 1/2. And so again, we're going to end up multiplying this time by a -5, and having that -5, we'll end up with x is less than. So we started off with greater than, now we flip that to less than, and it's -5/2. So that's really careful if we're multiplying or dividing by a negative. Now, if we multiply or divide by just a regular old integer, positive integer, not a worry. Don't keep the sign as is. So this is using tables, and you're going to do that work in your math journal, and I posted those in our Schoology course for you, so make sure you're checking those out. All right, so now let's practice this one. This is x over 5 is less than or equal to -3. So now we're going to multiply both sides to undo that division right there. We're going to multiply both sides by 5. Now that's just 5. So we don't have to worry about changing or reversing or doing the opposite signage of the inequality. We're just going to keep it with less than or equal to. So x is less than or equal to -15. And so then therefore there is my graph, and now we can start to see that these values, -30 is the solution where 0 is not. Okay, because that would say that then that would end up with 0 is less than or equal to -15, which is not true. All right. So I hope that's clear. So here's 3 problems. 2 of them are negatives, so you can get to practice that. So do these 3 problems in your notebook, pause the video, and I'll see you in a second. All right, so there are your answers. And notice that in 2 and in 3, that inequality sign has flipped. So it was less than, equal to, it's now greater than or equal to, and here it was greater than, and now it's less than. And that's all because you were multiplying or dividing by a negative number. Okay, so just keep that straight. Go ahead and do this problem in your notes, and I'll go through it in just a second. All right, so this one is you're dividing both sides by 6, and you're left with x is greater than -3. And we started off with greater than, and because we divided by a non-negative, we're just going to keep that the same, and then there's our solution. X is greater than -3. So because it's greater than, it's -3 is not included, so we use that light circle. All right, here is our problem, our next problem. So it's -3/2 n is less than or equal to 6. And right away you should be saying, oh my golly, that's a -3/2. So I'm going to have to reverse or make the opposite sign for that inequality. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 2/3, because that's the reciprocal of 3/2, and that will get the job done. That will get this to be just n. Okay, and then here we're going to do the same on this side, -2/3. And when I do that work, I'm left with n is greater than or equal to -4. Now, note that the inequality sign flipped. It was less than, and now it's greater than, and that's all because of that negative work. Negative work. That doesn't sound very positive. Anyway, solution is n is greater than or equal to -4, and then there's our graph. And because of the equal sign, that's that solid dot, and that solid dot means that -4 could be part of the solution. Okay. All right. So here's one more. for you to do this in your notes, and I'll have some answers for you in just a second. Okay, so let's take a look. So we've got negative 4/3 b is greater than 8. So right away, I know that I'm going to have to multiply both sides by negative 3/4. And in doing so, I'm going to end up with b. And because I multiplied by a negative, I'm going to flip that greater than sign into a less than sign. And then I have negative 6 on this side. And so my solution is b is less than negative 6. And then that's what my solution should look like, my graph should look like. Okay, if you need more practice, here are 4 problems. You can do those in your notebook, and I'll have answers for you in a second. So if you did those 4 extra problems, there are your answers. And if you didn't, I hope you didn't need them. All right, last thing for today is your mini assessment. So go ahead and do that. If you can do all 4 of these problems correctly, graph them correctly, you are ready with this learning. If not, please go back, watch some things that you missed, and then just be really careful with multiplying and dividing by the negative, that you've got to switch that around. So pause the video, do these 4 problems, and I've got some answers coming your way. All right, so this is what I've got here for you for answers. And note that this one did not change at all because you are just dividing by or multiplying by 6, which is not a negative number. This one didn't change either because you're dividing both sides by 4. Okay, and this one did change direction. So it's now less than instead of equal to, and it changed direction because, that's right, you had to multiply by negative 7/6 to get a positive k. And then this last one here, negative 4, and so there again we saw the flip of that inequality sign from less than equal to greater than or equal to. So I hope that makes sense. And if it doesn't, please make sure you reach out to me through our Google Meets or through a Google Voice call. All right. So here's the last thing that I'm going to leave you with, and this is something I want you to add to your notebook. So key ideas, multiplication and division properties of inequalities. When you multiply or divide each side of an inequality by the same negative number, the direction of the inequality symbol must be reversed for the inequality to remain true. Okay, so if I have negative 4 is less than 6, which is very true, okay, and now we multiply each side of the inequality by negative 2, then we're left with, well, if we didn't reverse it, we'd be left with 8 is less than negative 12, which is definitely wrong. But when we do reverse it, it now becomes true with 8 is greater than negative 12. So, and that's also true with division. If we're dividing by a negative number, we have to switch that around, because if we didn't, if we look at this problem, dividing by negative 2, we'd be left with negative 2 is greater than 3, which is wrong. So, I hope that you put this into your notebook, and I hope that this helps you kind of visualize what's happening. And it's really just because of that negative number that we have to change the direction or make it the opposite symbol, signage. Okay, thanks very much. Thanks for sticking with me on this. And we'll just keep going. All right, have a great day.